Wyatt Claypool posted this, and he's got an excellent YouTube channel, by the way. Check it out. So he says, if Trump or a Republican governor was running political ads against Mark Carney, would we be okay with that? No. All of the elbows up crowd would be losing their minds at the political interference. Obviously not. We would not be okay with that. He says, I dislike the tariffs and want them gone, but the posturing of Carney, Ford, and Eby has hurt our negotiating position. I've said this many times. I've said it from the start. I think that what Trump is doing regarding Canada has been counterproductive from the start, but we've made it worse. Like, it doesn't mean that we have to make it worse, right? It doesn't mean that we have to take a bad situation and make it even worse, right? We don't have to do that. We could practice actual diplomacy, not do it out in public. And some stoicism perhaps from some politicians might be a great idea. It's telling that every other country in the world is getting deals done, except for Canada. I think even China is getting something done with the States now. That tells you we're doing something wrong when we're standing alone. Engage in real hardball negotiations or sit down and shut up. Well, hardball negotiations aren't going to work, so that's not good either. I think that a quiet, stoic approach behind the scenes, not doing it publicly, just not giving any fodder, right, might have been a good idea. That seems, it absolutely would. I mean, it's just self-evident that would have been a better idea. So he's responding to this, Dallas Brody, and she's from One BC party, Conservative Party in British Columbia. Days after Doug Ford's anti-Trump attack ads backfired and resulted in a 10% tariff increase, David Eby, the Premier of British Columbia, plans to air his own at the expense of our economy. This is how stupid Canada is. This is the quality of our leaders, right? Clearly, this is not in the best interest of Canada, right? This will affect all of Canada. So his decision to do this will affect all of Canada. It's not going to help. It is predictable as the sun rising in the morning what this will accomplish, which will be nothing good. It will only be negative effects. Yet the desire to virtue signal to his voting base, his deranged voting base, is so strong that he will do it anyway. It's childish. It's insane. Yet this is Canadian politics as we've come to know it.
He threw a rock at Donald Trump and got bulldozed. Ontario Premier Doug Ford antagonized President Trump by running attack ads against him in the United States. As a result, Trump raised tariffs by 10% and ended all trade talks with Canada. Having humiliated himself, Ford pulled the ads, but the damage is done. It was a reckless move. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, not to be outdone by Mr. Ford, our Premier is even more reckless. He's now launching his own anti-Trump attack ads in the U.S. These ads give Trump an excuse to retaliate with even more tariffs against BC when we're already hurting. Mr. Speaker, is the Premier's personal hatred for Donald Trump more important than our economic safety?
Minister of Jobs and Economic Growth.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker.
There is the only correct answer to this is, yeah, you're right, and we're not going to do it. That's stupid. Right? We already know. It is. There is nothing more predictable than what the response to this will be, and it will be bad. So this is just, impotent rage, and we won't do it. That's the only correct response to it. But let's see what we get.
Mr. Speaker, it's vitally important that all provinces make the case to Americans when there's tariffs and duties that are put in place that are unjustified and impact workers and families in our communities. Mr. Speaker, it's vitally important that we make sure that all Americans, our friends across the border, understand that right now the tariffs on British Columbia and Canada are higher than they are in Russia. It's vitally important for our friends in the U.S. to understand that every time they raise tariffs...
Let's see. Americans don't care about ads from British Columbia or Ontario, okay? The people who hate Trump hate everything he does anyway. Trump could cure cancer and they will hate that. And they will love cancer after that, right? It doesn't matter. The people who like Trump don't care either. Nobody cares. This is not for the American public. It's for their lunatic voting bases here in Canada. That's who it's for. And the whole thing is a giant sham and a waste of money. Again, it's super counterproductive, incredibly counterproductive. Just so dumb, so incredibly dumb. Here we go. Mike'sMoneyTalks.ca. Pay attention. The U.S. just signed a deal committing $2 billion in funding for Australian mining processing of rare earth materials. Wait a second. Canada has those, and we're right next door with all these railway tracks and everything. That'd be super great for sending rare earth minerals down. Let's see, plus $11 billion in private investment incentives. It also signed similar deals with Cambodia and Vietnam for extraction and processing in Malaysia, with the stated goal of cutting China's dominance from 90% to 67% globally by 2030. Gee, seems like Canada being right next door and not being any oceans or frozen wastelands between us. Seems like Canada could have been a part of that. Why does Canada have to stand alone? It's because we have a prime minister who ran his campaign on Trump hatred. So literally almost every other country in the world was being pragmatic about it and thinking, okay, well, let's get something that will still work for us. We had a prime minister who was talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's got to stand up to Trump, and Pierre Poilievre would kneel before Trump. I cannot imagine that Pierre Poilievre could have been even remotely as much of a supplicant to Donald Trump as Carney has been every time he's been around him in person. It's almost like he loves Donald Trump, really. Like, that's his secret love. It's his secret crush. Not so secret, I guess. Tokyo Rosie said this: Canada could have had a trade deal with the U.S., but the Americans don't like working with the retarded holdovers from the Trudeau regime. Well, let's listen to this. So, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Let's hear what he has to say.
Sure, just very quickly, what it has been so challenging about dealing with Canada in trade negotiations?
I guess the lack of flexibility, and also I would guess that leftover behaviors from like the Trudeau folks that can be very frustrating for people who are negotiating.
Not surprising. Not surprising at all. A bunch of incompetent ideologues. A bunch of current year ideologues. So it has become, Canada has become just a cautionary tale and a comedy of errors. And, I guess our value to the world now is just as a cautionary tale, as just a warning. Don't do this. Don't be Canada. Yeah, so an additional 10% on tariffs because of the idiotic Doug Ford Reagan ad. David Eby in BC wants to put out another one because 10% isn't enough, apparently, but it will help him with his deranged base. So who cares? Just ruin the country. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.